Making friends used to feel like one of the easiest things in the world. You could meet someone, have a conversation, and somehow that person would slowly become part of your life. There wasn't this weird process where you had to figure out if someone actually wanted to be your friend or if they were just being friendly in the moment. You didn't think about whether you were texting too much or if you were bothering someone by asking them to hang out. You just spent time around people and friendships naturally formed. But something about making friends now feels different. And I think the weirdest part is that we technically have more ways to connect than ever before. We have phones, social media, online communities, and endless ways to find people who have the same interests as us. You can literally find someone across the world who likes the exact same things you do, but somehow turning a conversation into an actual friendship feels harder than it ever has. I think a big reason for that is because friendships used to happen through everyday life. You were constantly put into situations where you had no choice but to interact with people. You saw the same people repeatedly, you shared experiences together, and over time, those small interactions built something bigger. A lot of friendships weren't created because two people instantly had some amazing connection. They were created because two people kept being around each other long enough for a connection to develop. Now, a lot of those natural situations don't really exist anymore. People are constantly moving through their own routines. Everyone has their own schedule, their own responsibilities, and their own lives happening outside of whatever place you happen to meet them. You can have a great conversation with someone, genuinely enjoy talking to them, and then both people just disappear back into their own world. That's something I've noticed with work. You can spend years around someone and still never really become friends with them. You might talk every single day. You might joke around. You might know things about their life. You might genuinely enjoy being around them, but there's still a difference between being friendly with someone and actually having a friendship with them. A lot of the time, the reason you talk to that person is because you're both in the same environment. You both have the same schedule, you're both there for the same reason, and that creates opportunities to connect. But once that environment is gone, you realize that connection might not continue outside of it. And I think that's something people experience all the time. They meet people they actually like, but nothing ever comes from it. The conversation is good, the energy is there, and you walk away thinking that person was cool. But then there's this awkward part where someone has to take the next step. I noticed this with golf. Golf is honestly one of those activities where making friends should be easy because you spend so much time with someone. You're not just having a 5-minute conversation. You're out there for hours. You're walking around, talking between shots, laughing at mistakes, and naturally learning about each other. I've met people while golfing where we got along immediately. The conversation was easy, and by the end of the day, I was thinking, I definitely play with this person again. Then you exchange numbers. You say you should play again sometime, and somehow nothing happens. And that's the strange part. Nobody did anything wrong. There wasn't some bad interaction. The connection was there, but both people go back to their normal lives, and then suddenly reaching out feels weird. You start thinking about whether they actually meant it when they said they wanted to hang out, or if they were just being polite. So you wait, they wait, and eventually that friendship opportunity just disappears. I think a lot of friendships today end at that exact point. People are willing to have conversations, but they struggle with the transition from meeting someone to actually building something with them. There's this fear of being the person who cares more. Nobody wants to feel like they're chasing someone who doesn't want the friendship. Nobody wants to send multiple messages and feel like they're forcing something. The funny thing is, most people are probably thinking the same way. Everyone wants connection, but everyone is waiting for someone else to make the first move. People want friends, but they don't want to risk feeling rejected. So instead, everyone protects themselves, and the result is that a lot of potential friendships never happen. I also think social media has changed how we view friendship. We're constantly seeing people interact with each other online, and it creates this illusion that everyone is connected. You see people posting pictures with friends, going places, and sharing parts of their lives, but seeing someone's life online doesn't mean you're actually close with them. A comment, a like, or sending someone a funny video is not the same thing as actually knowing someone. I think that's part of why a lot of people feel lonely even though they're technically surrounded by people. We have more access to each other, but access doesn't always create connection. Real friendships require time, effort, and consistency, and those are things that are harder to find when everyone is constantly distracted and busy. Another thing that makes friendships difficult now is that people already have established circles. A lot of people have friends they've known for years. They have people they grew up with, people they already trust, and people who already understand them. When someone new comes into their life, creating that same level of connection takes time. That's something people forget. A close friendship usually isn't created from one great conversation, that conversation is just the beginning. The friendship comes from everything after that. It comes from continuing to talk, continuing to show up, and creating memories over time. I think that's why so many friendships today feel surface level. A lot of people know a lot of people, but knowing someone and actually feeling connected to someone are completely different things. You can have people you talk to, people you see regularly, and people you laugh with, but still feel like nobody really knows you. When I think about my closest friends, what makes those friendships special isn't that we're exactly the same. Honestly, we're pretty different. We have different opinions, different personalities, and different interests, but there is history there. There's a level of comfort that comes from knowing someone for a long time. We can make fun of each other, have serious conversations, and just be ourselves without worrying about how we're being perceived. And I think that's what people are actually searching for when they say they want friends. They're not looking for a bunch of people to fill their time. They're looking for people where they can stop performing and just exist, people they can talk to without feeling like they have to prove anything. The problem is that kind of friendship takes time, and modern life doesn't really encourage patience. Everything is built around quick interactions, quick conversations, quick entertainment, quick connections. But friendships don't work that way. You can't speed run trust. You can't skip the process of getting to know someone. So how do you actually make friends now? I don't think there's some secret formula. I think the biggest thing is putting yourself in situations where you have the chance to repeatedly see the same people. That's always been how friendships are built. You spend time together, you have experiences together, and eventually something deeper forms. The other important thing is being willing to take the first step. Sometimes you have to be the person who sends the message. Sometimes you have to be the person who asks someone to do something again, because there's a good chance the other person is sitting there wondering the exact same thing. And I think the biggest thing people need to realize is that you don't need 100 friends. Having a huge social circle doesn't automatically mean you're connected. You can know a lot of people and still feel alone. A few genuine friendships where people actually know you are worth way more than a bunch of surface level connections. Because at the end of the day, I think everyone is looking for the same thing. People want friends they can trust, people they can laugh with, people they can be themselves around. The weird part is that there are probably a lot of people around you looking for the exact same thing. They're just waiting for someone else to start. And sometimes that person has to be you. But I think there's another side of this that's worth talking about. I think a lot of people assume that if they're struggling to make friends, there must be something wrong with them. They start looking at themselves and wondering if they're boring, if they're awkward, or if people just don't want to be around them. But honestly, I think a lot of people are dealing with the same thing. There are probably people you've met who feel exactly the way you do. They want more meaningful friendships. They want people they can actually connect with, but they're stuck in the same cycle. They meet someone, they have a good conversation, and then everyone goes back to their own lives. And because nobody talks about it, everyone thinks they're the only one experiencing it. I think that's what makes this topic interesting. Friendship is something everyone wants, but it's something people rarely admit they struggle with. People will talk about being lonely, but they don't always talk about how hard it is to actually change that. Because making friends requires a level of vulnerability that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. You have to be willing to risk being ignored. You have to be willing to invite someone somewhere and maybe they say no. You have to be willing to show interest in someone without knowing if they feel the same way. And I think that's why people stop trying. It's easier to tell yourself that you don't need new friends than to put yourself in a position where you might get rejected. But the problem is, avoiding that feeling also means avoiding the possibility of finding people who could genuinely become important in your life. I think one of the biggest differences between people who have strong friendships and people who don't isn't that one group is naturally better at making friends. It's usually that one group was willing to keep putting themselves in situations where friendships could happen. They kept showing up. They kept talking to people. They kept giving relationships a chance to grow. And sometimes that means going through a lot of conversations that don't lead anywhere. You might meet 10 people and only one of them becomes someone you actually stay connected with. But that one person can completely change your life. Because when you really think about your closest friendships, those people were once strangers. At one point, you didn't know them. You didn't know you would laugh together. You didn't know you would trust them. You didn't know they would become someone you could rely on. They were just another person you happened to meet. And I think that's the part people forget. Every friendship you have started with two people who didn't know each other yet. So even though making friends now feels harder, it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means you have to be a little more intentional about something that used to happen naturally. You have to create the moments that life used to create for you. Because at the end of the day, everyone is still looking for the same thing: someone to laugh with, someone to talk to, someone who actually knows them. And maybe the reason making friends feels so hard now is because everyone is waiting for someone else to take the first step. So maybe the next friendship you make starts with something as simple as saying, "Hey, we should do this again sometime," and actually meaning it. Anyway, I'll stop yapping. Thanks for listening, guys. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.